Hey, everybody. You know what time it is. It's FranchisOR Bust, powered and sponsored by Stackadapt, the world leader in programmatic advertising for the franchise space. Shout out to them. So, couldn't be more excited. Katie is with me as always.
Hi there, everybody.
And today we are all going to get happy because we have got Vice President of Franchise Development of Happinest Brands, Eric Martin.
Trevor and Katie, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
We need like a clap track.
Yeah, we do need a clap track. Yeah, yay!
Nice.
Here we go. Well, Eric, coming at us from Omaha, Nebraska, and has been with Happinest Brands for many years now. Got a lot of experience in the franchise space. Covering a topic today that is extremely important and something that is very interesting in the space, and that is what attracts potential franchisees to brands. What is it about Happinest Brands that can be very interesting and something that can be profitable and good and life-changing for a potential franchisee? So, Eric, we're going to get into all that, but I introed you a little bit. If you wouldn't mind just maybe telling us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll start rolling from there.
Great. Thanks for the opportunity, Trevor. I'm in Omaha, Nebraska. As you know, I got into the franchising world about 14 years ago and started off my career in franchising with a service-based business, senior home care. Learned a lot there and different stops along the way, but joined Happinest Brands about 6.5 years ago. And I love home services. I love repeat revenue businesses that have multiple revenue streams, and really love the value a franchisor in general can bring to a franchisee who's working very hard to grow a business, hard to build a team, and all those things take a lot of time and effort. And what really Happinest Brands aims to do is provide resources to owners to take work off of their plate and give them a chance to focus on their customer base. So I love franchising in general. I really love consulting with people, helping them kind of build their dream, build their empire, and we play a role in that, educating them and getting them into a position where they can be ready to do that. So wife, 4 beautiful daughters, a dog, a little Shih Tzu, my business partner, I call him. It's about 11 pounds and sits next to me every single day. So that's a little bit about kind of my world and in my life.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations. And something that you hit on that I think we could explore a little deeper is when a potential franchisee or someone who maybe, let's say they could potentially even just be new to franchising in general, one of the things they might be a little bit fearful of is, hey, I'm coming from a corporate environment or just a different job type of environment. I want to get out there in the franchise space, but I'm not really sure how the franchisor is going to help me. And they may look at that as a bit daunting because they've never just been on their own and just been doing their own thing. Talk a little bit about how you are able to communicate to potential franchisees about the support structure and how really leaning on and utilizing that franchisor support structure can really benefit them and alleviate some of those concerns.
Sure. I think in general, franchising is a duplication of systems and best practices. It's a proven business model. And individuals that are looking to step away from the W-2 world, step away from corporate America, they want to build wealth. They want to create an asset, build an empire that can be beneficial to them and their family for generations to come. And that takes a lot of work and effort to do that. It's a two-way street, but as a prospective franchisee, I say most franchise owners are much more entrepreneurial than maybe entrepreneurial. I've worked with visionaries, founders that start companies and create systems and have wonderful ideas. That's an entrepreneur. Someone that's looking to start a business, they want to have a path. They want a system that has been shown to work consistently for different walks of life and different types of backgrounds. So when you start exploring franchising, you kind of start off, if you become a franchise owner, much further ahead than even that visionary or that founder. They're willing to take those lumps, spend the time, the money. I'll go through all those challenges, trial and error to get that model perfected so it can work for others. If you can't duplicate it consistently and easily, you're probably not going to be able to become a franchise in general. So that's really what we look at as at a Happinest brands level. When we look at brands and categories specifically, we love home services. We love repeat revenue type of businesses, generally pretty simple to get up and running off the ground. There's no build outs or lease spaces or long drawn out timelines to get up and running. So we can get owners ramped up very quickly, train them. But then from that point, it's ongoing coaching and support because the market changes every single year, frankly, monthly now with technology and marketing and how sales are done. There's so many moving parts today. As a franchise owner, you want a system that's proven to work. You're going to work hard. You've got good skill sets, business acumen. You're going to plug into that system, learn from the pros, learn from other franchise owners, and grow up with that system. So it really removes a lot of the clutter, a lot of the thinking, the guessing, the trial and error that those founders have gone through. So you as an aspiring business owner can step into a proven system and really focus on growing a business and ramping quickly and becoming successful and profitable.
I guess one of the better descriptions I've heard of kind of the difference between entrepreneur and someone who wants to step into the franchise space, because it's so true. And I love what you said too about how they really what they're getting themselves into is a replicable processed system, that one that's been proven to work. Now, obviously, they can't just show up and do nothing. They have to work as well. But the blueprint is there, which is obviously very attractive. What are some other things that franchisees who may be thinking about? You made a great point actually with the home services brands, that there's no big lease, for no construction loan, no 10 months till we're up and running, and those kind of things. You can really ramp up quickly. What are some things just on the kind of on the like unit economic side, or even like the buying into one location versus multiple location side that could really attract someone, not only the speed with which they can get up in the home services space, but those other items as well, and which ones that you're able to convey to potential franchisees as being a real positive, with both how they can scale, what the economics look like, and then also kind of the why behind it. Maybe let's look at a couple as opposed to just one.
Yeah, those are really good questions. A lot to unpack. I would say when you look at home services in general, they're typically lower investments because of the fact you don't have bricks and mortar or a lot of inventory or heavy staffing needs typically. So what I share when I consult with candidates and our team will share is, generally speaking, the lower the investment of a franchise, the heavier the local lift. And what I mean by that is there's so many tools like a Happinest brands would provide in terms of media. We centralize that. So we run all the campaigns, whether it's Facebook or paid search or direct mail or display, whatever it may be, you got to get impressions. And that's really hard to pierce through the clutter as a unit level operator if you're responsible for managing all of that yourself. Number two, we centralize the sales process. We have our own call center that fields inquiries coming in, both lead forms and calls. It's a speed to lead world. We all live in it. It's driven by Amazon. It's driven by Uber. Customers today expect immediacy, gratification. I called, I clicked, I want to get feedback and an answer, and I want to get this set up and done. So those are moving parts that are very challenging for anyone to manage. We can centralize that. We have the resources, the team. We've been doing this for decades. So we've built infrastructure to provide an owner a platform to focus on local customers and customer service. So they have to be prepared to deliver on that front. We can create that user experience, create those impressions, that initial wow moment. A local owner and their team has to continue that relationship and retain that customer. That's the key to success in home service businesses when you have repeatability, is you want to see that customer multiple times a year and add different services, introduce those and grow your revenue per customer. You're building value in your business, you're building value in the community. Owners need to be prepared, Trevor and Katie, when they come into a service business, to be that ambassador, right? So they're going to be doing the home shows and the farmers markets and get involved in their chamber and their business networking, international activities. Their teams are going to get outdoor hangers and lawn signs and do visibility opportunities that we call parking ways, using our vehicles as mobile billboards. That can't be driven from corporate. That's got to come from within. Everything else can be centralized as we see it to free up an owner to do that. So our type of franchise owner, going kind of back to your question early, we like them to start in a manageable way. We've never been a company that said, hey, let's start off with multiple territories, 3, 5, 7. The wider you get in home services, especially early, the more complex it becomes, because it all comes down to density and efficiency. So our bent at Happinest in our model is start with 1 to 2. And let's get deep. Let's create efficiencies. And then from there, let's start to look at maybe adding a 3rd or 4th territory, or possibly let's grow vertically within the Happinest family. There might be another brand that you like, that you feel could be a good complement to your core service or your existing Happinest brand. And let's grow up and double down. Same system, same team, same software, generally same processes. Owners are like looking at that and excited about the opportunity to grow up versus necessarily getting too wide. So we do have plenty of multi-unit owners. We call them mumbos, multi-unit, multi-brand operators that look at different Happinest brands and want to get big and grow, but taking one bite at a time, not too much too quick. And that can lead to a bigger challenge, as we know, being in the world of franchising. So we try to do it respectfully, do it the right way, give owners a chance to get up, running, profitable. And then from there, let's see, does it make sense to grow out a little bit further? Or does it make sense to maybe grow up in a different brand and a different vertical?
I've been calling Katie Mumbo for years, but nothing to do with the acronym you shared. I really like the overall phrasing there, and that is that you all are consulting in a way that is setting the franchisee up for optimal success, and you've got the industry specific understanding of, hey, this is how we're going to guide you into being ramped, into being something that, as you mentioned, is going to help them generate wealth and help them generate something that they haven't had before, which is a fantastic business that they own. So I think that's fantastic. Talk a little bit then about, so we've got you mentioned several brands underneath Happinest brands, all in the home service space. What are some of the Happinest brands kind of planned for the future? Are you all looking to focus on one or two of your brands a little more heavily with growth, or are you looking to, hey, we got to get these all spun up to a certain level so that we can continue to provide excellent opportunities for franchisees and obviously phenomenal service to your consumers?
Yeah. And we have a very detailed matrix in how we look at brands when we want to add them to Happinest. So currently we have Lawn Doctor, Mosquito Hunters, Eco Maids, our first brand outside of the US that we just onboarded here recently called Elite Window Cleaning, which is incredible technology and really kind of bringing a whole new spin to a traditionally kind of antiquated space as we saw it. And then we're bringing Sparkle Squad to the US, which is a mirror of Elite Window Cleaning. So what we're looking at in brands, they need to be in service. I'm not saying we would never go outside of that, but at this point in time, we love that no brick and mortar, kind of lower investment, relatively speaking, fast ramp, limited team needs, and really a chance to build membership models. That's what we look at. So when we're scoring, we're looking at categories. And then from category, we look at brands that may be available. Historically, we've been very focused on more emerging brands that have white space, maybe a handful of locations that can come into the Happinest brands mothership, if you will, and can evolve with us. And we can grow those brands aggressively and responsibly. That's what a lot of founders have a challenge with, as you guys know. They have a great model. They might find 3 or 4, 5 or 6 franchise owners and they hit that wall. And they don't know how to go beyond that because they don't have those relationships or the resources or the capital to go from 5 or 6 to 100 to 200, much less 500, 800 or more. We've proven that ability here at Happinest to grow brands aggressively and grow them the right way. So I think when it goes back to home services, Trevor and Katie, what inspires candidates that are looking for franchising outside of just maybe the ease to get in, a lower investment, a quick ramp, they see the opportunity like we do. It's a do-it-for-me society. And it's a $600 billion industry, home services. That's what it's valued at right now. That's only going to grow as home formation in our country continues to grow. It's expected to double over the next decade or so. And that's really a direct result of the millennial that's moving out, moving up, establishing their families. And that generation, as we know, is a don't want to do it society. They're going to outsource services and have things done for them. So we just see this huge opportunity in home services, and by centralizing at Happinest, providing great value to an aspiring franchise owner that says, hey, these are the things I want to do. I want to build customer relationships. I want to get engaged in my community. I want to build a team. I want to create wealth for myself and my family, but I don't really want to deal with SEO and paid search and Google AdWords and Facebook and creative, and build a system to manage my customers and a billing process and routing process. That's done for them. So they can really step in and focus on what they aspire to do, which is build that community business, something they can be proud of and get their family and others involved in over time.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. Something that we found to be pretty consistent across brands, and I'm sure you're going to echo these sentiments, and that is the importance of the fellow franchisee, right? So you've got to the franchisees themselves. Talk a little bit about the importance of their fellow franchisees underneath the same brand that they're a part of, and just how much of a factor that plays into the success of everyone who's a part of the brand.
It's huge. I mean, as we know, when you start a process as a franchisee, you're drinking from that fire hose, right? From the franchisor, the corporate team, you're going through pre-training and onboarding. You're coming out to corporate, you're going through that brand's training process. There's a post-training, there's some software training, deliverables come out, vehicle equipment. We're doing an on-site visit. We have coaching calls weekly. We're doing site visits typically every month and a half or two, and really making sure our owners are up to speed and prepared and ready to go. Once you start getting 2-3 years under your belt as a franchisee, you've got the model down. It doesn't take long to be really comfortable and confident. Where you get value going forward as a franchise owner is your colleagues, your fellow franchisees that may be near you or halfway across the country. We facilitate best practice sharing. Our owners get together. We have our conferences. We want to propagate success, and a lot of great ideas come from our franchise owners. And it's our job to do that responsibly and take those ideas and say, does this work across our system? Can this be propagated across other brands? As an example, we learned from franchise owners on the EcoMade side that have helped us on the Lawn Doctor side, a brand that's been around for 5+ decades that we've implemented. So there's that opportunity to share, learn, get better. When you bring in smart people that are well capitalized and want to build big businesses, build empires, they're not shy. They're going to give their feedback because they want to grow, they want to be successful, and they want their neighbors and their fellow franchise owners to be successful. I'll give you one example. I'm not going to mention this brand name yet because it's not out there, but I did mention to you before we got started, I was in Chicago for some training. We're bringing on a new brand that's going to complement our seasonal brands very well, and we're excited to get this rolling. But we had owners from multiple brands all together for this training. And it was really neat to see that owners coming together that aren't necessarily in the same brand, but in the Happinest family, and just the ideas being shared back and forth. That's what makes franchising so special. You learn every day and you get great ideas, and you're working with a corporate team that has your best interests in mind. We're all aligned. And that's what makes this a really special type of deal when you have a fraternity of owners like this, and you create, like a Happinest brands would, an environment that makes it easy for owners to be able to do that.
Yeah, it's such a cool thing and kind of unique because, if I think about myself, for example, I started a advertising agency many years ago. Well, I don't get together with my fellow advertising agency buddies and talk about how we can all succeed. And, really what I think about with them is I'm not going to tell you anything, right? Because I'm competing against you. And so that's the way that you have, kind of your territory and your section and how that works out. The enhancement then for those franchise owners to really benefit from that group think and that, that group success is super attractive. And, again, we started off by talking about what are some things that can help potential franchisees get over maybe some of the fear of like, well, I got to give up this big job I've always had, or I got to, this or that, but I want to get into it. one of those things that would dampen that down is not only are you not alone from the franchisor standpoint, you've got a whole bunch of other people that are happy to lift you up, happy to tell you how they're succeeding.
I think that's what makes franchising really unique as a model in and of itself, is you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. And it's not just a corporate team training you and coaching and say, go get them. We want to generate revenue and royalty revenue. That's a part of the business relationship. And on a personal side, we have great relationships with our franchise owners, and they have great relationships with their neighbors, and they're not competing with each other. They have their territories and they're building their business, whether they have one or multiple territories. Those are protected, exclusive areas. So no one's afraid to share ideas or thoughts or best practices, because as their business grows, as a neighboring franchise, your value increases as well. Rising tides raise all boats. So our owners want to see their neighbors, and even if it's no one near them, have success as well, because ultimately it's the right thing to do and they care about the success of Happinest brands, but it also increases the value of their brand. And believe me, that's something everyone's thinking about at some point, right? It's not just getting the business started and growing it and generating cash flow. It's the exit strategy. You got to have that succession plan, whether it's 5 years or 10 years or 20 plus years down the road. There's going to come a time where it's going to end and you're going to want to sell your business and have a liquidation event. And the better that system is and the stronger it is, the better it's going to look to a buyer, because the buyer is going to evaluate not just your P&L in your individual business. They're going to evaluate the system as a whole and say, is this a good culture and a good system I want to be a part of? And everybody benefits from that.
I think that's something that's overlooked sometimes when initially consulting with a franchisee, to kind of let them know, like, hey, we understand that one of our jobs is to build this, provide infrastructure to you, provide the processes, et cetera, so that you are set up to succeed, to meet your goals in the next 10 to 15, 20 years, which is what these goals, the following could look like, and really help them understand. We don't expect you to, run this for the rest of your, until you're 80 and then, pass it, which some do, but, that's more likely what you described, to get them in a position to say, hey, I've been having a great time, having a great business, but it's time to get that big check.
Absolutely. That's the dream. That's the goal. That's what you want to do, is build wealth, build value. And, as you guys know, resale's traded at a pretty high multiple in service related businesses, and you're buying cash flow. You're buying customers that are retained and have been with that company for many years and are adding services. So it's really a great way to build wealth. But obviously when that time comes, like you said, whether you run it for 5 years or you run it for, till you're 80 years old, there's that kind of next step, if you will. And that's what we coach our owners on. We talk about it at Discovery Days, is the exit strategy, beginning with the end in mind. And it catches some off guard, because as a candidate, you're going, well, I'm just thinking about starting this. Well, we want you to think about that, obviously, but what does that next step look like for you? You always have to think forward, and you're always positioning your business each step of the way for that sale at some point. So we coach to that and put a lot of focus on that with our owners.
Last thing that we'll chat about, because you've talked a little bit about it, which I think is something I want to bring out a little further, is the value in being a part of a franchise brand that is underneath the umbrella of a group like Happinest brands. You mentioned the capability and the ability to potentially say, hey, I love that. I understand these systems. I understand who I'm dealing with at the franchisor level, et cetera. Maybe I could get a part of another one of these brands, so that I could bring that in, since it makes sense. What are some of the other benefits of, as opposed to just choosing, a group that's more than likely owned by, private equity, and you get in and it's just that one brand and you go from there, versus being a part of an umbrella organization where you can be a part of one of the brands underneath that umbrella?
Yeah, it's a great question. And there are plenty of standalone brands. Not as much today, though. When I got into it, it was much more common to see that. Today, it's much more common to see platforms that are pulling resources together, pulling teams together, having the necessary capital, the resources. Why businesses in general franchises included, maybe don't do as well at points is they're underfunded and undergunned. And you really can't get over that hump if you don't have the resources. And you look at a Happinest, it all started with the Lawn Doctor brand that started in 1967. And for many, many years, it was just Lawn Doctor, and a team was built and learnings happened. And when you're in service for so long, you kind of know what works and what doesn't. And really, it's pretty similar across other brands, by and large. There's always going to be nuances and differences, but really a lot of it's just learning and experience and having the resources to provide value to a franchise owner within a system. So brands that don't have those resources doesn't mean they're not a good brand or a great brand. It's just going to be very challenging for them to provide the types of resources like we would have, whether it's a call center or it's centralized media that drives down cost to have more media running into a territory more efficiently and managed for a franchise owner. There's just so many moving parts today that a local small business owner really can't manage. And I've just seen it happening, and just the expectation of the consumer today, how marketing, how artificial intelligence and business intelligence has impacted all industries, including our space. Things move so quickly. And you've got a franchise owner that's got a family, a small business, and trying to build a team and be everything to everyone. They just can't do it. So these platform companies are bringing resources to bear for franchise owners. And when you just look at things like metrics and dashboards that we can provide owners in real time so they can know this is my budget, this is my cost of lead and sale, and here's my acquisition rate, here's my typical customer tenure, here's where I can maybe upsell to grow my revenue. We want to show our owners this is how you become successful. This is what others along the way have done. Follow the system, follow the process, and you'll be in really good shape long-term going forward. So I think those are some of the things that we're bringing technology to franchise. We're bringing resources that are affordable for franchise owners and giving them, as we call it, just an unfair advantage that independent businesses or smaller franchisors just typically can't provide at scale to franchise owners. So I think that's where a centralized system, a Happinest brands or a platform company can really shine and help give that owner those advantages that so many small business owners would love to have.
Couldn't say it better. Eric, it's been a true pleasure getting to know you, getting to know your role in Happinest brands and the and you know, as you discussed while you were enlightening us today, you guys have so much to give and so much process and, you know, the infrastructure necessary to really help franchisees be successful. So if there was someone who was potentially, you know, listening and thinking about it, I think you've made some phenomenal points in terms of the ease of access into the home care space, how they be supported, et cetera, and really would. You know, I mean, I was sitting here listening to them. You know, maybe I should get a EcoMaids going, and you know, and I mean, just because everything you were saying was so spot on. So we appreciate you doing all that. Appreciate you enlightening us. I'm glad to know that the Mumbo is not just for Katie, and we'll keep that acronym in mind. And if you got any last words for us, now's the time.
No, thank you for the opportunity. And for anybody listening to this, business ownership is not for everyone. It's a huge step. We take it very seriously. We encourage our candidates to take their time and follow the process as a candidate. If you're exploring a brand of ours or someone else's, there's a process in place for a reason. We want to get to know you as much as you want to get to know us to make sure there's good synergy and a good fit. So buy into that process. And if this is the journey that's right for you, entrepreneurship, it's one of the best things you can do in your life. And it teaches you a lot about yourself and who you are, and can change your life and your family's life for generations to come. So I love franchising. I love being a part of it. And I just love doing things like this. And thank you both for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Eric. We really appreciate you. That was awesome. Katie, who brings FranchisOR Bust to the masses?
Stackadapt.
Stackadapt. That's right. Stackadapt, the #1 programmatic provider to the franchise space. Big shout out to them for sponsoring our program as always. Eric Martin, Happinest Brands, thank you so much. We will see you all and have you listen to our wonderful show on the next FranchisOR Bust.